like Attila the Hun. I came here to conquer. Lanes bring the beef, I tell them no donker. They wanna play games, I shock them like Blanca. They still rudimentary, I'm tough like Tonka. And let me get this off my chest. I'm hearing going nowhere, so haters take a rest. Ain't nothing handed, just working hard, sweating. You can take that to the bank. I know I did bet.
Welcome to episode 4 of season 2 of Eye of the Storm. I'm Tempestt, and I want to thank you all for coming out. Don't forget to like, comment, sub, and of course, a playlist is available for season 1 for ease of access, and next week we'll have one for season 2 as well. As you know, I do work with Mind Over Mix-Up. I also do my own music, montages, and the like, so be sure to give them some love too. And without any more delay, let's get started. KOF 15 News has revealed Benimaru is the last piece to Team Hero alongside Meitenkun and Shanae. Interestingly, he's not with Team Japan, so will there be a new team, or will the usual suspects be taking a break altogether? Only time will tell. I'm actually loving these weekly reveals though. Next week we'll find out more news. In other news, Konami has shut down major production departments, like their 3 major production departments have been shut down. They say they're reworking things, and it seems like certain servers for some games have shut down as well. What does this all mean? Well, I mean, could they be selling off IPs? While I feel like for the fans the latter really would be the better option, we shouldn't really hold our breath. Konami reworking their landscape for profit is obviously understandable from a purely business standpoint. Perhaps they'll just take an overall backseat from making games and kind of just outsource their properties. Kind of like how Sega does sometimes. I guess we'll find out soon. Putting in the work can be seen as it being smarter and not harder, but where do you draw the line? Now, speaking of which, today's subject we're going to talk about simplification of games. Now, ahead of time, just to let you know, I might be a little more on the opinionated side, but as always, I'll be presenting more than one side just to see what is going on for you guys. Now, there's perceived difficulty, or artificial difficulty as I like to call it, and actually difficult. We'll talk about each one of those and then where I feel things need to happen. I think I may have touched on it previously, but first off we have perceived difficulty. Games like this would be the first Dark Souls, and a lot of old school video games. Remember the last episode when I said a lot of difficulty is actually removed if you just memorize patterns? Yeah, there are some games like that are just supposedly hard, but in reality they're just designed badly, and oftentimes on purpose. This gives a bit more of a perception of the game being hard, but it's just to make up for what would be just I wouldn't say a total lack of difficulty, but a lack of difficulty. I don't really see anything inherently wrong with it, but it can be mistaken as a truly hard game, and it really isn't once you understand where the game's flaws lie. The simple fact is that there's just a ton of games created not to be beaten a certain way, like Battletoads, where it's actually quite impossible to beat the game on 2 players. It's designed that way. And you have some games like Smash TV, where they hint at something for a special ending, but the game is actually designed not to give you what it promises you by doing so. Then there are just games that don't give a proper tutorial. Now, you can argue that one, but I also feel that that's just a false feeling of difficulty. Then we've got actually hard games that exist. Nier Automata, Ninja Gaiden, the American version of Legend of Dragoon, yes, it's actually harder than the Japanese version. Shin Megami Tensei, Nocturne, we'll just throw that one in there. Persona, take your pick. Hollow Knight, Mega Man, especially the Japanese version, the American version of Seven Saga, and so many more. These games present a legitimate challenge for the player, and can even increase challenge. You get a real sense of accomplishment when beating these games, or you can just get so frustrated that you might rage a bit. These games challenge your very core, and for better or worse, they live on in infamy among gamers all over. The difference is that these games are actually hard, and don't just create what is, as I mentioned earlier, artificial difficulty. Now that we've talked about that, we can discuss just how games are easier, quote unquote, these days. Now, what I'm speaking mostly on from this point is fighting games. Shocker, I know. However, I did talk about satisfaction in games in a previous video, and I also had a whole discussion with Mind Over Mix-Up about difficult fighting games. So that's why I chose a different set of examples. I do feel like some of the principles still apply to most games. So I'm going to start with this statement, which is kind of the entire TLDR. I don't feel like games need to break your fingers in order to be good, but I also don't think games should be easy, so easy that anyone can just do major damage combos without any real effort. Execution barriers should exist, in my opinion, because it actually makes people do a bit of work, and it also creates individuality when it comes to styles of play. If you can't do an super extensive combo, I'll say, but you can do maybe a mid-level one, well, you can structure your style around your own execution barrier. It can still be effective, it just won't be as stylish. You know, as someone who can do more. But there's nothing wrong with that. Older games actually allowed for that kind of diversity in playstyles. I personally appreciate when a game allows you to be an individual without a big barrier that could potentially injure your hands or fingers, wrists. Examples of games that do that would be Super Smash Bros. Melee, Marvel vs. Capcom 2, well, really the entire library of Marvel games, pretty much. They could honestly truly hurt you, so just be careful if you're going to tackle some of these games. Whereas you have other games like older Street Fighter games, Tekken in general, and well, really 3D games in general, and some others, they're much kinder to your hands and fingers. However, overall, you just didn't have to kill yourself trying to do the most fancy stuff. If you can do it, then so be it. But there were styles that allowed for less execution and more of other skills. Control, footsies, the whole nine. Which, you know, we can get into later and actually discuss what that is, because there's a lot of confusion surrounding that. There should just be a balance of execution and accessibility, but nothing too simple. The other point I feel is that some are just a bit too lazy to put in the effort for practice. If everything just came easily accessible, it takes away from the depth of the game, and it kind of becomes stale to the point of lacking fun. I know people don't like to practice, but taking away some form of a physical challenge, wherein the average person kind of doesn't put a whole lot of thought into playing itself, it can really kill a game and take away from something that most games, especially fighting games, have, playability. Mind you, this is still all my personal opinion and observation. All in all, my big TLDR is that we definitely need a barrier of some sort. Again, it doesn't have to be crippling execution. Just know that I'm not for that. We don't need that anymore. I grew up on that, it's just oof. But we do need something difficult for individuality. But what do you think though? I know there's varying opinions on this. Let me know in the comments. Anyway, we can discuss as always, and be sure to share this video around. You can also reach out to me on other forms of media. Twitter, as always, is the best. Once again, thanks for watching. Drop a sub if you haven't. We're aiming for 500 right now. As always, be safe, take care of each other, press buttons, and catch you on the flip side.
Let me talk to him now. So don't just tell me what you want, baby. Tell me what you need. Cause I ain't here to flaunt, best believe I'm here to please. I hear you're insatiable, I guess it's time to feed. And according to my ratio, we'll see.